So it is October 1st. We are moving on into winter. Oh, my God. Well, let me see, where are we right now? We're in fall right now and headed into winter, headed into a holiday season. And before that, as we mentioned before, don't forget, it will be Election Day. Very, very important election for us TIs, okay? So welcome to GoGi's After Dinner Jam. I'm so glad you chose to be here. I hope you can hear me well. We've been dealing with some audio issues lately, but I'm hoping this is a good day. And I'm glad that you chose this flavor of ice cream. I look at all the conference calls. There's so many different flavors of ice cream, and yet you chose to be here. Remember that our free will is at stake. So every time you get to choose something, whether it's your toothpaste, your toothbrush, what time to get up, then you are exercising your free will, and unfortunately, it is at stake. So we want to continue to celebrate every time we exercise our free will. All right, thank you again for being here. I'm going to get right into my message. We have a, pun intended, jam-packed night for you tonight. You're going to enjoy every bit of it. So sit back, relax, and let's get busy. Today is First Fruit Tuesday, so every first Tuesday of the month, I go gospel because God tells us to give him his first fruit. And that doesn't only mean tithes, it means with your time, your attention, your heart, everything. So this time is devoted to him. So I wanted to start, and you probably know this story. I'm not even going to tell you the story. The name of it, you'll get it as we move on. And it starts like this, and this is the GoGi version, okay? One sunny day, a woman was walking along a path in the woods. The twigs were so brittle they snapped under her feet as she walked. However, she was enjoying the sunshine. Then she heard a feeble voice saying, "Excuse me, ma'am, can you please help me?" It was a snake, and she had almost stepped on it. Yeah, it's the story of the snake. I think former President Trump told it recently. Okay. She said, "Sure, Mr. Snake, how can I help you?" He said, "I'm cold, old, and injured, but if you can just pick me up and warm me up in your bosom, I'll be fine, and I'll get better." So the woman thought hard and long, and he said, "Please, please, please," begged the snake. So she picked him up, warmed him up in her bosom. "Ah, that feels so good," said the snake. "Thank you." "My pleasure," she said. And she continued enjoying her walk in the woods. And as she walked, this woman felt the snake tighten his grip on her. And it began to slither like a snake does. And it began to hiss like a snake does. And the woman said, "Mr. Snake, you're hurting me. Please loosen up your grip." And the snake said, "Lady, you know and you knew I was a snake when you picked me up." And I always think about this, and I said the moral of the story could be, once a snake, always a snake. Well, that would mean that people don't change, and sometimes people really do. So the snake didn't tell the woman or promise her that he was going to change. And ain't that just like Satan? To lure you in, seduce you in with what he needs and entice you, and then switch up. Just like the serpent did with Eve. He told her that she would find out the truth. He told her that she would gain knowledge by disobeying God. But he didn't tell her at what cost, the cost that we're still paying for today. And there's a burden, when we disobey God. There was a television, radio personality person that I spoke with not too long ago, and she received a letter from the secret society. Okay, that's what it said, the secret society. Perhaps people related to the program that we're in. But anyway, it told her that she would gain beauty and riches if she would just sign the form on the bottom. And I wonder if Diddy got some kind of offer like that, to set up people, to collect embarrassing moments, embarrassing information on so many others. What if he was an FBI informant, notorious gang stalker? Rumor has it he was with the FBI. What if it was with this program? And what's the moral of his story? You knew I was a snake when you signed the form. When you took a picture of him doing something that he didn't want the public to see, of him saying something that he didn't want his wife and children to hear, of her doing something that she didn't want her parents to find out about, or her best friend, or even her boyfriend or her husband. Did you think that you would be treated any differently? Perps, infiltrators, do you think you're going to be treated any differently than you treat targeted individuals? You knew I was a snake when you signed the form. You knew I was a snake when you made the agreement. The Bible talks about trying a fruit by their spirit. When you want a peach tree, or you want a peach, you go to a peach tree. A peach tree doesn't produce oranges. An orange tree doesn't produce apples. A good tree doesn't produce bad fruit. Good seeds. When you want something good, you sow good seeds. When you want to be around something good, you look for the good. People, we inherently know the difference between right and wrong, between good and evil, and we get to choose. So when you're looking for an agreement with another person, a business agreement, a marital agreement, and you're looking for something good, don't look in their wallet. Don't look in their phone. Listen to what they're saying. Look at their character. Look at the fruit that they're producing. So just listen, observe, and you'll know their fruit. You'll know them by their fruit. Okay? That's the message tonight. You'll know them by their fruit. All right. So, everybody, welcome to the Jam. This is GoGi's After Dinner Jam, and that was my gym for tonight. I hope you got something out of it. And our question that when we open up is, how do you know when someone has really changed? There's something that they're doing, you don't like it or whatever, and you want to see a change. How do you know that they have seriously changed? So when we open up tonight, please state your name, city, and state you're from, and answer the question. How do you know when someone has really changed? Welcome to the Jam. This is GoGi's. Glad you made it in. Welcome to the Jam, everybody. So glad you made it in. Please state your name, city, and state you're from. And how do you know when someone has really changed? If you have noise in your background, please mute yourself so we don't have to mute you and boot you. Thank you.
God bless you, Twinnie.
God bless you. How are you, Twinnie? Welcome to the Jam.
Good. Good. I'm from, amen, the city of David. Amen.
All right.
How can you tell someone has changed, well, the Bible says, when someone comes to Christ, for example, old things pass away and all things become new. So with that being said, that lets us know how someone's changed. Well, are they still doing the same things they did before? Are they still talking the way they did before? All that stuff. That's how you know if someone's changed. But let me just say this. Change begins with your heart first. When your heart is right, it's going to automatically show on the outside. And so that's how you're going to know if someone's changed, Gaji. Amen.
All right, I love it. Thank you so much, Sister Samia. Calls Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
Amen. Your bill is on the way.
Okay. All right.
I hope you amen it when you get it.
No, I probably won't. But anyway, please listen to Sister Samia Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Information on TI events. And I love that response. Yes, they change when they do something different. And the change starts in their heart, but they begin to do things differently. I love it. So you'll see it, you notice it. You'll see the fruit of their change. I love that. Okay, welcome to the call, everybody. Please announce yourself, city and state you're from, and how do you know if someone has really changed?
Hey, Gaji, this is Lynn, Dallas, Texas, and my response to that is we will know them by their fruit. However, I feel that change is a process, and I feel it's our duty to not look for change because that's like placing judgment. It's our duty to give that individual to God and wait for their change to come and hope that it will. Because the truth be told, there's probably something in all of us that needs to be changed.
I like that. There's something in all of us that needs to be changed. Let's not judge others as they're changing. Give them time to make the change, and it certainly is a process. Thank you for that. All right. Anybody else?
Constance, Arizona. Hi, Gaji.
Well, hi. Welcome to the J.A.M.
Thank you. I think the best way to know somebody's changed, especially somebody that's really treated you, some sort of way, that they come at you with apology, saying that they are sorry for what they did to you, and they're not talking the same things that they were talking before. They're not acting the same way that they were acting before, where they have like their spirit is just overwhelming to you, where you know that you're feeling them. You're feeling that they have really changed, and so you might want to reach out. But then again, once a snake, always a snake. And you have to be careful, especially in this program,
Hallelujah.
that you can give somebody a second chance, but you got to keep your eyes wide open.
Okay. Thank you for that, Constance. Thank you. Welcome to the J.A.M. Okay. All right. Once a snake, always a snake. But look for change. Sometimes they do something different, and a true, sincere apology it will show you. It'll be seen in their behavior. Thank you for that, Constance. Welcome to the J.A.M. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else want to weigh in on this? By the way, we know the end of the story. Hi, 1 second. We know the end of the story that the snake remained a snake and squoze her to death. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, New Jersey.
Yeah, you know what? So Chris from New Jersey. You also want to be careful of Stockholm, right? There's Stockholm disease, which is a condition, right? That where you accept your captors, you start to accept your captors. So you can Google that condition, right? And you want to be careful of that, because sometimes the snake will make you think they're your friend and they're not, right?
Wow, you're trying to get deep on us, Chris. Absolutely, Stockholm syndrome. When the victim falls in love with their captor or their abuser, and they just stay in this vicious cycle or stay in a relationship. Thank you for that, Chris. Good point. Okay, so yeah, the fruit hasn't changed, but you're there seeing change or seeing some good in it. All right. Anybody else? Okay, so we're going to settle down and get into our night. Thank you for being here. We're going to get right into the news, and boy, have we got news for you. So let's get. All right, everybody, thank you for joining the J.A.M. We have quite a bit of news. Lady T, I hope you're ready. We've seen so many things in the news, and we're going to touch on a few of them. Some of them apply to us, some of them really don't, but we're going to touch on a few things, and we're going to start with what's going on in New York. All right, Lady T, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
Is it me, or does it seem that the DOJ and the FBI are raiding everybody in a way that we have never seen before?
Well, Chris, I would absolutely agree with you that this is relatively unprecedented for a police commissioner and so many in his inner circle to be under investigation. And you pointed out correctly that the second police commissioner in the last 3 years appointed by Mayor Adams just resigned. And that led us to where we are now with Commissioner Donlin. Now, Chris, if I can just take it down really quickly to the micro level, and you and I had spoken before, I know Tommy Donlin personally. I've worked with him in some of the most austere and inhospitable places across the globe on terrorism investigations. He's a man of probity and character. The questions here is, what was the search for? I don't have any inside information. I certainly read and hear things through channels and through open source, but I can tell you this, and trust me on this. I've written about it, and I spoke to many outlets about Tommy Donlin. I don't sense that this guy could even spell corruption and could be imbued with malfeasance or moral turpitude. This is a straight shooter, and I think that's why he was selected by Mayor Adams. Now, we got to wait till the dust settles. We know there's an investigation ongoing. We do know this. It has nothing to do with any of his actions at the NYPD, and I am reasonably confident he is cooperating fully with the feds on this investigation.
Okay, so then I still have, thank you very much for that, by the way, Jimmy. That is of special gift status to the audience because you actually know who we're talking about. So, and you're an amazing judge of character. You're a public servant 5 times over, so we respect your take. Stu, now it makes even less sense. Because if this guy is so stand-up, why would they treat him like this? And if he's such a stand-up guy, why would it have ever gotten to this point? Where it could have been a phone call from a guy with extended family. At worst, it could have been a subpoena. Why this way?
Well, Chris, I think one of the things that we are hearing is this potential excuse that some 20 years ago he may have had access or possession of classified documents, and now all of a sudden the FBI wakes up and executes a search warrant. First of all, and my hat's off to Jim Gagliano, one of the most respected agents that I formerly recall in New York, and so kudos to him, having him as a guest, and I defer to him. But let me just tell you, I think Jim would agree, a veteran of the NYO office, they would pick up the phone knowing that he's interviewing to become the next commissioner in the New York Police Department and give him a heads up and say, hey, Tom, we understand we have some information. You may have some documents you may have had for 20 years. Come back and bring them in. We don't want to upset and disrupt your potential doing. But with that being said, the soundbite that is being sent out of the narrative, I don't believe, and why I don't believe it is, quite frankly, and I think Jim touched upon this, the only thing you get when the FBI comes knocking on your door in connection with a search warrant is the search warrant itself. It does not give you any insight into the affidavit of what the affiant says
there's probable cause to believe that the fruits of criminal activity is in your house. It may give an addendum, a schedule of A through Z of what they're looking for, but it does not necessarily tell you what you may have done or what laws you may have violated. And so I don't necessarily agree or believe the excuse that this has to do with something 20 years ago. Also, the legalities of the statute of limitations, in my opinion, would have long since run. I do believe that the mayor's office has been compromised. There may have been some wiretap or some texting or some emails that the FBI intercepted in connection with the recruiting of this individual, and that is why the urgency of going out and executing this search warrant.
Okay. Thank you for that, Lady T. And I'll just say that, the city can come to a halt when you go after police commissioner after police commissioner after police commissioner. This is the third one, and you have to have someone running the police office, the whole department of the police. So for the commissioner, one after another, to be, have to step down or stepping down or being under investigation, it's really rough. So, all right, so that's what's going on in New York, and so we're going to move on over, and that is related to the fact that Eric Adams, there was an interview or somebody asked him something, and he said he's being targeted, and he is familiar with the targeting program. All right, so we'll leave that right there. All right, now Lexington, Kentucky, we're going to move on to that. We're only going to spend about a minute there. There's something else that happened with their police department, so let's take a quick listen there.
Assistant Attorney General Christian Clark, who headed the Civil Rights Division, detailed the investigation's results during a Zoom call today with news media. Watch this.
Over the past 2 years, Lexington has made nearly one arrest for every 4 people in town, more than 10 times the per capita arrest rate for Mississippi. The Lexington police also illegally arrest people for using profanity, and they retaliate against people who simply film officers or criticize the police. The First Amendment protects swearing, yet the Lexington police broke down a man's back door and arrested him for swearing in a public space. The First Amendment also protects the right to film or criticize officers. But when a man filmed officers approaching his suicidal brother with their guns raised, a police officer batted the man's phone out of his hand, pushed him to the ground, and arrested him. While making arrests, the Lexington police frequently use excessive force.
Assistant Attorney General.
All right. So I don't know how many of us TIs are in Lexington, Kentucky, but being careful is an understatement. You have to be very careful. They said 1 out of every 4 people for profanity, for taking pictures of the cops. You know how when we're arrested, or when someone comes to us, approached by an officer or pulled over for a ticket or whatever, oftentimes people take pictures. They film them to be arrested for that. Wow. So that's what's going on in Lexington, Kentucky, and we're going to keep it moving. James Giordano, Professor Giordano, my goodness, I listened to his credentials, and the list goes on. Very learned man, as they say, and an expert in his field. So he talked a little bit about brain control versus mind control. So let's take a listen to that. 18.
The construct here is very, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. It's simply this. We can zap the brain and modify the mind. And evermore those things that are indwelling and that need not necessarily be a surgical implantation, because state-of-the-art now is for next-generation non-surgical neuromodulation. Inhalables, ingestibles, deliverables via very, very small-scale units at the nanoscale that can then be segued to where they have to go in the brain and form literally vast arrays of sensors and transmitters to be able to real-time and remotely read from the living brain and write into the living brain. That sounds like sci-fi, doesn't it? It's not. This is a project at DARPA that I have the honor and privilege of working on called the N-Cube Project. And you are really going into the substrate of the thing that makes us, the essence of self, if you will. I don't care how you disguise it. What we are doing is we are scanning the brain, and from that literally interpretively reading its functions, which are mind, and we are then utilizing these capabilities to then back intersect with that brain and therefore control brain structure and function, ergo mind. I don't care what kind of game you play. It's mind reading and mind control. Blatantly so.
Okay, so the project through DARPA is called N-Cube, N-C-U-B-E or N-C-B-E, but it's pronounced N-Cube Project. And they're saying that that the next time, as opposed to surgery, it's going to be you can inhale things or ingest things that will impact the brain and the mind, zap the brain and modify the mind. So we have more to be aware of and be alert of. Okay. I thought that this is important for us all, and in recent years, I don't know if it's program related, I happen to think so, but there's been so many security breaches with our Social Security number. And I don't know if you've been given, received anything from your bank or somewhere else about a breach, but it's so important that we do pay attention to that because it's our identity, of course, but our Social Security number in particular. And so we're going to listen to this clip, but I want to urge you each or all of us to write all three of our credit bureaus and lock it down. Lock down our, with TransUnion, Experian, and what's the other one, whatever it is, I can't remember right now. But to lock it down, lock them down so that just anybody can't get anything with your credit, especially as a targeted individual. All right, so let's hear what U.S. DOD has to say about this security breach.
Right up front, unfortunately, an event has happened. It's worse than if a hurricane hit the Social Security Administration because this is really going to mess with a lot of people who are not prepared. Los Angeles Times came out with a quick article, hackers may have stolen the Social Security numbers of every American. Here's how to protect yourself. Okay, let's get right into a real view. And if people weren't taking precautions in the past, which they should have been doing, this should be a 5-alarm wake-up call for them. So if you have credit counseling options, TransUnion or other facilities, the big three that you can log into to go ahead and check on your credit, expect potential opening of new credit accounts against your name, mortgages against your name, special COVID loan requests against your name. Just expect going forward that you're going to have fraud committed against you as a result of what is right now happening. If you suspect that your Social Security number or other important identifying information about you has been leaked, experts say you should put a freeze on your credit files of 3 major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. I use TransUnion, but you could use either. They're all the same. You can do so for free, and it will prevent criminals from taking out loans, signing up for credit cards, and opening financial accounts under your name. The catch is that you'll need to remember to lift the freeze temporarily if you're obtaining or applying for something that requires a credit check. Getting a car, house, whatever. Buying big stuff, okay? Placing a freeze can be done online or by phone, working with each credit bureau individually. PIRG cautions never to do so in response to an unsolicited email or text purporting to be from one of the credit agencies, such as a message, and is probably the work of a scammer trying to dupe you into revealing sensitive private information. So remember, if you want to go to it, go to their official website. If you want to do it, go to the official website of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, okay? You can also sign up for a service that monitors your accounts in the dark web to guard against identity theft, typically for a fee. If your data is exposed in a breach, the company whose network was breached will often provide one of these services for free for a year or more. If you want to know whether you have something to worry about, multiple websites and service providers, such as Google and Experian, can scan the dark web for your information to see whether it's out there, but those aren't specific to the reported national public data breach. For that information, try a free tool from cybersecurity company Pen Tester, P-E-N-T-E-S-T-E-R, P-E-N-T-E-S-T-E-R, that offers to search for your information in the breach national public data files along with the search results pen tester displays links to sites where you can freeze your credit reports. So, and then they talk about, having strong passwords, this and that. We, unfortunately, don't have an incredibly safe system.
Obviously not. We thought we did, but obviously not, because this is not the first time that there was a breach. So we have to be very, very careful. And, I'm getting a message from someone. That's where I got my message from, too. Chase Bank had a Social Security number breach. And so we have to be really careful. And let's be on it tomorrow. Let's try to, lock these down. I heard the last one was Equifax. So Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Just call them, write them, email them, or just get a message to them you want it locked. And they have, if someone sends you something saying that yours was breached through them, they will give you 1 year of free credit supervision or something, credit safety, let's say. All right, okay, we're going to take a commercial break right now, and then the next articles and so forth will be TI related directly. All right, let's get busy.
Welcome to TIEvents.org, your official insider for the targeted individual community. As the go-to source for all TI events, we're here to keep you in the loop with the latest and greatest happenings. Discover daily conference calls, meetups, and exclusive events across the USA, all at your fingertips. Plus, planning a TI event? Advertise with us for free and connect directly with the TI community. TIEvents.org is not just a website. It's your gateway to a world of information, connection, and empowerment for TIs everywhere. TIEvents.org, your official insider. Dive in and discover today.
All right. TIEvents.org. Thank you, Tranquility. All right, so you know that you can get all the events about the targeted individuals on TIEvents.org. All right, so Liliana is going to report on the next article. Liliana, if you're here, this has happened in California. Okay, good. Remember that California already had one of the stronger neural rights bills, but now they've done something new. So let's hear about that. Liliana, thank you.
Yes. Okay. In the New York Times print edition on the paper, the title is a title that we are going to like. California law protects brain data of individuals. In the digital version, the article is the same, but the title is different. It says, California law protects consumers' brain data. And individuals is what we are. This is a human rights issue, not a commercial issue. Anyway, I'll start. And I'm going to read all of it, GoGi, except 2 paragraphs because it's really important what it says here.
Okay.
On Saturday, Governor Gavin Newsom of California signed a new law that aims to protect people's brain data from being potentially misused by neurotechnology companies. The new law, which passed both the California State Assembly and the Senate with no opposition votes, amends the state's current personal privacy law, known as the California Consumer Privacy Act, by including, quote, neural data, unquote, under, quote, personal sensitive information, unquote. This includes data generated by a user's brain activity and the meshwork of nerves that extends to the rest of the body. I'm very excited, said State Senator Josh Becker, a Democrat who sponsored the bill. it's important that we be upfront about protecting the privacy of neural data, a very important set of data that belongs to people. With tens of thousands of tech startups, California is a hub for tech innovation. This includes smaller companies developing brain technologies, but big tech companies like Meta and Apple are also developing devices that likely will involve collecting vast troves of brain data. The importance of protecting neural data in California cannot be understated, Senator Becker said. The bill extends the same level of protections to neural data that it does for other data already considered sensitive under the California Consumer Privacy Act, such as facial images, DNA, and fingerprints, known as biometric information. Users can now request, delete, correct, and limit what data a neurotech company collects on them. They can also opt out from companies selling or sharing their data. Unlike medical devices, which must abide by federal health laws, consumer neurotechnology devices go largely unregulated, experts say. An April report from the Neuro Rights Foundation, an advocacy group pushing for laws to protect people's brain data around the world, including in California, examined policy documents of 30 companies and concluded that almost all have access to their users' neural data and do not have meaningful limitations to restrict access. More than half explicitly allow user data to be shared with third parties. The new law is a big step forward, said Jared Genser, General Counsel for the Foundation, and follows similar legislation enacted in Colorado in April. The Foundation is talking with lawmakers in other major states, including Florida, Texas, and New York, Mr. Genser said. The law comes at a critical moment, experts say. Scientists have already been able to decode people's thoughts and feelings with startling accuracy, said Rafael Yuste, a neuroscientist at Columbia University and the chair of the Neuro Rights Foundation. That which used to be science fiction, it's actually not science fiction anymore, Mr. Eustace said. The California bill gained widespread support from several medical and privacy regulatory organizations, including the American Academy of Neurology, which represents more than 40,000 neuroscientists and neurologists across the country. Some experts questioned whether neural data was already covered by other sections of the bill linked to biometric information, even if it was not stated explicitly. Biometric data is pretty much everything that we've already talked about, said Morris Hoffman, a retired Colorado judge who conducts research on neuroscience and law. So this does nothing except make that explicit. Other experts said the bill was overly limited on regulating neural data, when instead it should focus on preventing companies from being able to make intrusive inferences about people's thoughts and emotions, regardless of whether the data was neural or the kind of technology that was used. What matters is that you are doing a type of inference that is extremely infringing upon my privacy rights, said Marcello Jenka, a professor of ethics of artificial intelligence and neuroscience at the Technical University of Munich in Germany, who was not involved in developing the bill. Whether that inference involves facial recognition, neurotechnology, biosensors, or other technology is unimportant, he said. A better approach, he added, would be to regulate the algorithms underpinning these predictions, rather than targeting neural data and neurotechnology companies specifically. TechNet, a network representing tech companies like Meta, Apple, and OpenAI, also pushed back against the bill, arguing that including the peripheral nervous system, the array of nerves that extends from the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body, in the bill would sweep too broadly and ensnare nearly any technology that records anything about human behavior. The final draft of the bill kept the language about the peripheral nervous system, but stipulated that information inferred through non-neural data would not be covered by the law. In effect, devices that measure other features of the human body, like a person's heart rate, blood pressure, glucose, or hormone levels, are left uncovered by the law, Mr. Genser said. I think this amendment strikes a good balance of trying to protect consumers while also allowing some space for businesses complying with the law to provide services that consumers want, said Owen Jones, a professor of law and biology at Vanderbilt University, who was not involved with the bill. The bill, Senator Becker said, set a precedent for the tech industry globally. California is really a technology leader for the world, Mr. Becker said. And so for California to step forward and say, hey, this is important, we're going to protect this information, I think it is really important. That's it. And I heard from our colleagues from California that looked into this law that persons affected by these intrusions into the brain and neurological system will be able to sue any corporation or contractor that has had that access.
Woo, beautiful. Thank you for that, Liliana. Very important for us because they constantly violate our rights, with the V2K. Imagine that, trying to change a memory, or just the monitoring and constant surveillance of us in our mind is just awful. So I'm very pleased at what California is doing and these organizations. I hope that they are able to convince the other larger cities and all the cities, really, all over, to adopt these laws and our neural rights, which we didn't have to try to protect before. We just assumed, people wouldn't start looking at our brains like that or try to have this kind of impact and influence. that they would respect our constitutional rights, our God-given and our human rights. But now, it is a big issue. So thank you for that. I'm very, very pleased with the direction that's going. You also want to mention
yes, I want to end by saying that these 3 other states that will be approached, and actually are already being approached by the Neural Rights Foundation, because that's why they mentioned them. They're going to have similar, these are civil laws, but they are expecting a federal law that will cover all of the states, and it would be a criminal law when there are violations of the brain and neurological system. So this is upcoming, and both Euste and his 2 attorneys went to the White House to visit and talk about a federal law with Biden not too long ago, and they also visited members of Congress. So all of this is in the works, it's developing.
Okay, thank you.
So now the proclamation you want to hear, yes, the county of Ventura, that is only a few miles north of Los Angeles, there's a TI, I don't know her last name, but her first name is Mikel or Michaela, and she is from the area, and she has a group of TIs who work with them, work with her, and they were able to talk to the city council in Ventura and convince them of declaring the month of October now as Havana Syndrome Month.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
There is a proclamation that will be issued in a few days, and a certificate showing the proclamation I think will be ready in a couple of days, and it will be seen and printed and copied from the website of this group of PIs from California, and the website is havanasyndrome.tech, TECH. You will be able to see it and print it and share it with anybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, and that is only in that county, I'm supposing, and it would be great if we can expand that as well. So we need to look at a lot of things that are in one particular area and try to expand as far as we can, especially when it's benefiting us as PIs.
Yes. Derek has also mentioned that the county of Richmond, or city of Richmond in California, that a few years ago, and he was present with other important PIs, Dr. Spencer, they also had a special declaration about targeted individuals, and that was made possible by a lady, TI, from that area, and that is still there, so it has not been removed. That declaration to inform about targeted individuals and advocate for the protection of targeted individuals.
Okay. Thank you very much, Liliana. And Liliana, please text me that website so that I can make sure it's on the YouTube page. Okay?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for your report. All right, everybody. Thank you. Once again, we're going to now both of those directly pertain to targeted individuals, and so does this next thing. And this is Tulsi once again. So Tulsi is talking with Tucker And it's very important. I really want you to hear some of the things that she's saying. We're gonna play the whole thing because it's so important. And then I'm hoping that Lawana, she couldn't be here tonight. We have two guests, but she is to come on just to apologize, and she'll be here next week. So go ahead, let me find out if she's here while Kelsey plays. All right, Lady T.
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm repeating the same point again and again because it shocks me every single day. But the ruthlessness and the recklessness of the people currently in charge doesn't seem to have any boundaries at all. And I just am struck by the fact that
which most of us ignore. I spent most of my life ignoring foreign policy, does seem to be driving domestic policy, right? So one of the ways that they tried to delegitimize you and threatened actually to criminally charge you was by claiming that you were somehow allied with a foreign government. We just saw indictments this week by the Biden administration meant to cast doubt on criticism of the Biden administration. Oh, it's Russia. Kamala's losing. It's Russia again. I'm worried. I mean, they put a bunch of people I know in prison already, a bunch. I have a friend in prison right now for doing nothing, Steve Bannon. I'm worried that if Kamala Harris wins, lots of people are going to go to prison on the grounds that they are somehow allied with foreign countries. Do you see this happening?
It's all, as you said, it's already happening, and we've seen how both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have no hesitation whatsoever to weaponize our Department of Justice and law enforcement in order to put their political to punish their political opponents. You know, that press conference that Merrick Garland did announcing those indictments. I wasn't surprised, frankly, to see them waving the Russia, Russia, Russia flag as they are revealing their concern that Kamala Harris might not win this election. But what I thought about was, gosh, this is what the Attorney General and the FBI Director was sitting right next to him. This is what they're focused on. Why aren't they focused on innocent, everyday law-abiding Americans being put on secret domestic terror watch lists?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know anybody who's wound up on one of those lists? I have a little experience with this. Will you tell us? So I travel a lot. I'm on planes more days of the week than I'm probably not on planes. And one day my husband and I were traveling together, and we got this SSSS on our boarding pass. You know, we have pre-check. Pre-check didn't work, and went through all of this additional screening with pre-check and thought, okay, the TSA guy said, this is random. Just be patient. Like, okay, got it. You know, you got to do the thing. And then the next day and the next flight happened again. The next day and the next flight, it happened again. My husband and I split off. He was going one direction. I was going another direction. We both went through it. We were both getting this treatment, and I was honestly getting kind of pissed. There was a whole lot that went into it, but it wasn't until about a week later I knew there was something going on, because once or twice, yeah, okay, maybe, but 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in a row, clearly something was happening. And I talked to a TSA supervisor in one of these airports, and he's looking at my military ID card. He's like, why is this happening to you? You're in the military. I was like, you're telling me, buddy. And he's like, first of all, this is way above my pay grade. But what he shared with me was very revealing, and he said that he had a lot of friends who were Trump supporters who had no problems traveling. Then all of a sudden, all of them started getting this Quad S on their boarding pass. You got to go 45 minutes through TSA and all this other stuff. And he looked at me and he's like, there's something fishy going on here. And I was like, yeah, I think I should make some calls. And he said, you should make some calls. And he had no idea that I had anything to do with politics at all. As far as he knew, he had never heard Tulsi Gabbard before. He was just like, military, what's going on here? Air Marshal whistleblowers came forward about a week and a half later and provided evidence. They took pictures of the targeting package. For those of you in the military, you know what that means. They took pictures of the targeting package that the TSA made for me that showed I had been added to this secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies, and the words operational was on that targeting package. And unbeknownst to me, I had a little bit of an idea, but unbeknownst to me, for those last week and a half or 2 weeks, I had at least 3 federal air marshals following me and traveling with me everywhere I went. And there were K-9 teams, there were EOD teams. I was getting swabbed for traces of explosives, not only in the initial going through TSA, but again before even boarding the plane at the gate. I told the guys again, I was like, they just checked me like 10 minutes ago. We got to do it again. It's not them. Clearly, this was an act of political retaliation for my criticisms and warning the country about what kind of dangerous President Commander-in-Chief Kamala Harris would be. And so this is still going on today. Sometimes I get the Quad S, sometimes I don't, but I've heard from people who have confirmed that my targeting package is still operational.
So, I mean, you're an Army officer, we're a sitting member of the United States Congress, you're a presidential candidate, and you're on the terror watch list. So, and there's nothing you can do about it. So how is that different from any other secret police force in any other country?
This is the thing, it's not. It's not. And if we had an attorney general who cared about our freedom, our civil liberties, about the integrity of a democratic republic where we can speak our mind and express ourselves and criticize our own government, guaranteed by our First Amendment right, perhaps our Attorney General and the FBI would be investigating these acts of abuse of power and political retaliation.
Well, yeah, because if you boil it down, what it means is if you criticize Kamala Harris, people with guns follow you around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the only one. I mean, there's an FBI agent who was a whistleblower because he could not stomach anymore what he was seeing, which was how the FBI was being told to send out heavily armed SWAT teams to go and kick down doors of peaceful pro-life protesters in the middle of the night. This abuse of power and how the very first counterterrorism head of counterterrorism the FBI had, he is retired now, but he came out and said it sickens him because the FBI has essentially become the police arm of the Democratic Party. So how is this any different from Venezuela or any other country that's being run by a dictator or an authoritarian leader? And so, the hypocrisy is so rich. Again, going back to the Cheneys, they say that they have to vote for Kamala Harris because Donald Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy. I don't know how they say this with a straight face. I really don't.
When the current regime has a secret police force that has people with guns hassle its critics, that imprisons its critics, that tries to silence half the country for criticizing them. But Trump, because he criticizes them, is the main threat to democracy. I mean,
and he has the audacity to talk about things like, hey, we should not be waging regime change wars. We should not be sending our men and women in uniform to go and fight unnecessary, counterproductive wars of choice. That's really why they're coming after him.
Okay, is that the end?
You want me to continue to play it?
Okay, we're good.
You want me to continue? Okay.
Yeah, because there's another part I think that she mentions about other people, American citizens being on domestic terrorist lists. I think I recall that. If so, I would like everyone to hear that part. If it's not much longer. Mm-hmm.
I've got to just back up one moment. So we know that the FBI has been utterly politicized. It doesn't mean every field agent is corrupt. I don't think that's true. It means the leadership is utterly corrupt, and it's being used as as you said, the police arm of the Democratic Party. So here you have the Republican Party, which controls the House of Representatives, and its Speaker, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, just refunded the FBI and built them a new building, just rewarded them for this behavior. So you have to kind of wonder if the Republican Speaker is on the same side as the police arm of the Democratic Party. We're in trouble.
We are in trouble. This Quiet Skies terror watch list that I'm on, Congress has never seen who's on the list. How many other secret terror watch lists?
Wait, Congress can't see who's on the list?
Congress has asked for the TSA director to come in and show who's on the list. To my knowledge to date, and I'm in touch with some of my former colleagues, they have yet to see the list. Senator Rand Paul and many other members of Congress, they sent letters of investigation demanding show your documentation. If you put Tulsi Gabbard on a terror watch list, you must have a pretty damn good reason for doing it. Show the evidence to Congress. And the deadline passed. They have delivered no evidence. But this goes to what you're talking about. If we don't have leaders with courage who are committed to the Constitution and the interests of the American people first and last, then we end up with what we have in the permanent Washington establishment, with people who are more concerned about not ruffling feathers than actually rooting out the deep rot of corruption that has long existed in our government across Democrat and Republican administrations in Congress. That's what we have the opportunity to fix in this election and to begin to start to get things right.
All right. It seemed like while the rest of us were sleeping, dissent has been reclassified as a crime. And dissent on foreign policy questions has been reclassified as treason. Yesterday, somebody sent me a statement by an editor at Newsweek magazine called Josh Hammer, who was claiming that I was funded by Russia. I was taking Russian money. And I laughed. I don't care what Newsweek, I mean, to the extent it still exists, I don't even know what it is, right? Well, you're not taking money from Russia. Yeah, okay. My friend said, no. This is significant because it's a pretext for a criminal charge. Of course. The media, Josh Hammer of Newsweek, whoever that is, acting in concert with the Kamala and Biden administration to set up critics for criminal charges.
Okay. All right. So I want to make a few points here, and I know there was a lot of political plugs there, and we know that Tulsi is for Trump and Republican and so forth. And this issue with the domestic terrorist watch list with the TSDB is certainly a bipartisan issue, and by that I mean the fact that whoever has been in that seat, Democrat or Republican, has used that weapon, has known about this targeting program, and so far has done nothing. Okay, and I particularly remember, people talk about the presidents all the time, and public officials being in that position. You expect that kind of behavior or misbehavior. But when Whoopi went and made comments or did some jokes about President at that time, former President Bush, she was blackballed. So I do know that this targeting thing, and I'm sure there's several other examples, but the program has been there and for decades and has been used across the parties. And at this time, the Democrats are in charge and using it, and it's being discussed, and Trump is discussing tearing it down because they went after the J6s. And so we, will hopefully get swept up in it and be freed along with them. And I know there's I don't know if anyone has heard this rumor, and then we're going to go on to a commercial break. And I'm going to try to find Luana, who was just going to pop on. She couldn't be here tonight, but she wanted to pop on and just apologize and say she'll be here next week. And we have two very special guests that are waiting, and we're excited about hearing them. So I don't know how I will find her, but I'm going to try to do that in a second. Okay, now that I lost my thought, we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back with the FBI whistleblower, and we're going to go on to that, and then we're going to hear from our first guest, and that is Betty Dew. All right, so let's keep it moving.
Are you feeling like something strange is happening in your life? You tell others, but nobody believes you? Well, get ready to uncover the truth with GoGi Justice's groundbreaking book, GoGi's 10 Signs Which Indicate You're a Targeted Individual. GoGi Justice, an everyday person just like you, has written a book that exposes the covert illegal activities happening right under our noses. With a writing style that's raw, honest, and relatable, GoGi takes you on a journey through the dark world of targeted individuals. You'll ask yourself if you are experiencing these signs. Learn about infiltration, gang stalking, privacy violations, and even hacked home appliances. GoGi's book is a beacon of hope, providing encouragement, tips, and resources for those who find themselves trapped in this nightmare. It's time to fight back and regain control of your life. So if you're tired of feeling isolated, unheard, and targeted, grab a copy of GoGi's 10 Signs Which Indicate You're a Targeted Individual. Available now on Amazon.com and the Targeted Justice Etsy shop. Don't let them silence you any longer. Take the first step towards understanding, empowerment, and freedom. Get your copy today and join the movement. GoGi Justice's book, A Voice for the Targeted Individuals.
Yay. Okay. All right. So thank you for that, Lady T. Tulsi is talking the truth, and she's talking about the fact that she's not only on the list, but regular people are on the list. How many lists are there? So she is going to talk us up, guys, talk us right into the center, and so I'm excited about that. All right, so we want to look at some FBI whistleblowers, and we're going to get ready and listen to that. And there's also an FBI a whistleblower advocacy group that is working to protect these whistleblowers so that they're not afraid to blow the whistle. Okay, whistleblower.
And I consider the hearing today my last act of service as a public servant for the United States of America. And I'll give you my professional opinion. I was an intel professional for our country for many years, and I would give recommendations, and I'd also look at indications and warnings. So I would offer this to the American people as my warning to them. But this is a warning to the American people. I say, I personally have no confidence that the FBI will rein in its own conduct. I've been persecuted along with Garrett, Steve, and Kyle, and countless other whistleblowers. It is my opinion that the Bureau used reprisal and fear to control the workforce. It has been a seemingly effective tactic. I personally believe that there are no current effective checks and balances against them conducting lawless action with any type of correction in a legitimate time frame. I welcome the work of the IG, but I think any type of lawless action, there's no legitimate time frame to rein them back in. Their ability to overclassify information can allow them to stonewall forever. To the American people, you have a duty as a citizen to vote, and I strongly urge you to do so. It's how you participate in the American experience. I know people have doubts about election integrity, but you must vote. It is your claim. Stake your claim and don't forfeit it willingly. Have your voice heard. My other recommendations are in the natural order. First, vote. The second is the Second Amendment. Arm yourself and know how to defend yourself. Make 3 to 4 friends in your neighborhood and promise to come to each other's mutual aid in times of hardship. And during the Great Depression, people stocked up a pantry. So I think that's a good practice, especially in our economic times. And make sure you have 3 to 4 months of food. As a person of faith, I'd say pray the rosary. Go to the First Friday devotions. That's for everybody, all my brothers and sisters of all faiths. And I know I'm Catholic. and read the gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Okay, so that is a warning from a whistleblower. He's leaving the FBI. He's not happy. He's saying that there are no checks and balances. And I'm sure he shared many things with the committee, but he's telling us to stock up with food, arm ourselves, pray, and I'm not sure what else he said, but it's a warning that he says that we should all take heed of. And he said something is coming. I didn't hear it here, but he said something was coming today, October 1st. All right, so here we are. It's today. It didn't come, but, we're supposed to be looking out for something. That is how he's blowing the whistle. Okay, and so now the advocacy group, and then I have one more thing, and I want to hear from our first guest. All right. Mm-hmm.
On the eve of a House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing that is expected to further expose the major flaws in the laws prohibiting reprisal against FBI whistleblowers, major whistleblower protection organizations and accountability advocates are calling on Congress to pass legislation that finally creates effective protection for whistleblowers. In a letter to the committees of jurisdiction in the House of Representatives, the organizations outlined two specific reforms needed to protect FBI whistleblowers. First, the organizations recommend giving FBI employees the same protections as other Justice Department and federal law enforcement employees. The letter details how the FBI was excluded in 1978 from those whistleblower protections and from statutory prohibitions on nepotism, political coercion, and other harmful personnel practices. The coalition recommends giving the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, OSC, jurisdiction to investigate those practices in the FBI like it does in other agencies, and to allow FBI whistleblowers to appeal from OSC, the Merit Systems Protection Board. Second, the organizations recommend overturning or narrowing the Supreme Court case Department of the Navy versus Egan, 484 U.S. 518, 1988, in order to authorize truly independent review of retaliatory security clearance decisions at any non-intelligence community agency. In the letter they write, "We urge Congress to reject the DOJ's attempt to claim for itself unfettered authority to make unreviewable decisions, regardless of the constitutional rights of its employees. Egan's reach must at least be limited to ensure that constitutional rights cannot be infringed with impunity." The organizations and advocates made the following comments regarding their letter. It's become clear that the FBI's so-called whistleblower protections are almost meaningless. Retaliation at the FBI is nothing new, but the FBI's latest method of reprisal has raised the stakes higher than ever. Using clearances as a pretext to violate employees' constitutional rights should not be tolerated. It puts FBI employees and their families in limbo without pay for years as the FBI tries to grind them down. It's time for Congress to step up and change these laws, not just for FBI employees, but for all Americans entrusted with access to classified information. Kristen Levitt, President, Empower Oversight. It is imperative that Congress acts quickly to ensure meaningful whistleblower protections for heroic whistleblower agents like our clients who are following the law in order to expose some of the worst government corruption we've ever seen. Without additional protections, the politicized bureaucracy will continue to weaponize the justice system against innocent Americans with impunity, silencing the only ones who can lawfully expose their abuses.
All right. Okay, so instead of silencing them, they're looking to protect them. They're, of course, if you work in an office that's corrupt, then you get to see all the corruption. And if you don't want to participate, you want to blow the whistle, and you need protection. All right, so this next article is going to take us to our first speaker, and this is about human microchipping, which we call implants. And there are 11 states with laws about microchipping. If you're in a state with a law about implants, and you can prove that you have implants, that means it's on a scan, it's on an X-ray, it's very clear, it's black and white, then you can certainly pursue legal action. All right, so the human microchipping bills seek to rein in practice. At least 11 states have passed laws restricting it. What sounds like something out of a sci-fi thriller, microchips being implanted in humans, is already happening in countries such as Sweden and Germany. State lawmakers in Sweden and Germany. What about the United States, right? State lawmakers in the U.S. are not waiting to see how the movie ends. At least 11 states have passed laws restricting human microchipping. That includes Oklahoma, where for the past 2 years, Senator Nathan Dahm has introduced legislation to expand upon his state's existing law. My focus and priority is on protecting individual rights, Dahm said in an interview. Bills to bar employer-forced microchipping were also introduced this year in Alabama and Wyoming. Now, those are only those forced by employers. Of particular concern to legislators is the potential for employers to someday require that their workers to get microchipped. In 2017, a Wisconsin company drew national attention when it held a chip party where employees voluntarily received implants so that they could do things like unlock doors and buy items from the break room vending machine with a wave of a hand. Existing Oklahoma law prohibits any individual, government entity, or private employer from requiring someone to be microchipped or otherwise permanently marked. Dahm's bill would go further and bar employers from coercing employees into being microchipped or asking on an application if a potential employee is willing to have one implanted. Dahm said he was inspired to introduce his bill after meeting an Arkansas lawmaker who had passed a similar law in response to hearing about people in Sweden voluntarily getting microchipped. When it comes to things like this being implanted into our body, I believe the government does have a responsibility to protect the individual from those violations of their body, of bodily autonomy, said Dahm, whose Twitter bio identifies him as Oklahoma's most conservative state senator. He sat down for an interview with Jon Stewart that went viral earlier this month. Dahm compared the issue to vaccine mandates, but state-level concerns about human microchipping predate the COVID-19 pandemic by nearly 2 decades, ever since the FDA approved the use of a medical records microchip. The issue also cuts across the standard blue and red state divide. California, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin were early adopters of laws prohibiting forced microchipping. Indiana, Missouri, Montana, and Nevada are among the states that followed suit. In 2021, it says, I believe that as technology develops, we need to create legislation before it's becoming a problem. This is Wyoming Representative Daniel Singh. He told Cowboy State Daily in January. Singh was a House co-sponsor of the Wyoming bill this year, which originated in the Senate and cleared that chamber but died in the House. The Oklahoma measure has also stalled. The Alabama bill, sponsored by Rep. Prince Chestnut, advanced out of the Judiciary Committee last week. Your right to work should not result in your employer being able to trace your steps and place you under a constant state of 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week surveillance. Very important. So they acknowledge that the microchip puts them in a 24/7 state of surveillance. Chestnut told Alabama Daily News, microchipping is most often associated with livestock or pets. In the case of a lost and found pet, the owner's information contained on the chip can be accessed with a handheld scanner. In animals, the microchip is typically placed between the shoulder blades. In humans, the grain of rice-sized device is often injected into the tissue between the thumb and forefinger. As of 2018, an estimated 50,000 to 100,000 people worldwide had been chipped. In Sweden, people use them to store medical information, access gyms, and ride trains, according to NPR. In some cases, the chips allow users to make contactless ways. The privacy concerns around this are that you are treating the human body as a kind of human barcode, said Zana Malikos-Smith, a senior associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies who has researched and written about human microchipping. Malikos-Smith said, it was commendable that states are thinking about the implications of the technology. She highlighted Indiana's 2021 law, the most recent to pass, as forward-leaning because it included a non-discrimination provision meant to protect employees who decline a microchip from retaliation. Let me see. Okay, almost finished. I'm going to skip some of this in because it's getting late, and I really want to bring our speaker on, but you have an idea of the 11 states, but they're mostly talking about employer-forced microchipping, but the issues that come out have a lot to do with the implants that are non-consensually put in our body and used for non-consensual experimentation. And at this point, I would like to introduce you to our in-house queen of the FCC as we move on talking about implants and how they use these implants to communicate with us, to get data from us, and to harm our bodies. And that has to do with the frequencies, which has to do with the FCC. And Betty Dew, are you there?
I am here.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy to have you back on the J.A.M.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're not a stranger here, and I asked Betty Dew to come and speak with us because she is a constant activist. She's always doing something, writing letters, making phone calls, and so forth. And I know that, Betty, I know most people may not know this, but that you were at some point able to get your implant, some of your implants out. Is that so?
I had two removed from the back of my right ear. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in doing so, I know
they have been analyzed.
I'm sorry?
I do have pictures of them, and they have been analyzed.
Okay, beautiful. And I know that you at one point were involved in a legal case. We don't have to get into that tonight. And I know that you are making some more moves in reference to that coming up in the near future. And we'll have you back to talk about that. Right now, I know you have a complaint that you've written to the FCC, and I really wanted to hear that complaint. And we all need to keep our ear open because this is something that we can all do, especially if we have something in common. All right, Betty, you can go ahead.
Thank you, GoGi, for asking me to share the complaint letter. This is the complaint letter that I filed with the FCC on the 23rd of last month of this year. And the complaint letter reads as, in the USA, there are laws that the FCC thinks they are above, laws that the FCC turns a blind eye to every day. Maybe instead of employing engineers, the FCC should employ attorneys to help the FCC to understand and comply with the laws that the FCC is to comply with. Laws that protect human life, wildlife, and our planet. Like the National Environmental Policy Act passed in 1969. The FCC has failed in protecting the health of all humans living in the USA from the effects of radio frequency energy. Section 302 states, Section 302 of the Communications Act in 1934, as amended, allows the Federal Communications Commission to create regulations for the devices that emit radio frequency energy and could harm radio communications. These regulations cover the marketing, importation, and the use of electronic devices in the United States. Where is the regulations for nano implants in humans without their consent? Nano implants are implantable devices implantable inside the human body and implanted as implanted that transmits and receives transmissions, communications that is transmitted through med radio. Has the FCC and med radio taken steps to safeguard the public from illegal implantation and medical experiments that use these implants to collect data from the victim? The Spectrum Enforcement Division of the FCC, under the color of law, turns a blind eye to the complaints regarding the marketing and importation of radio frequency devices like nano implants. The FCC does not even require a medical consent form before adding these devices for monitoring. These nano implants, once again, turning a blind eye to the fact that people are being implanted without consent and data collected and then transmitted through med radio. Did the FCC find out if this device in the human body was consensual or consented to, or was it implanted illegally? Betty Duguay has had 2 of these implants removed from her body, and she still has 12 left inside of her. Signals recorded on her body are in the range of med radio frequency and in the frequency range of directed energy weapons. Then I state the laws and the frequencies that med radio operates under. There is no excuse or explanation as to why the FCC perpetuates and allows crimes pertaining to illegal implanted devices in non-consensual victims to be transmitted legally through med radio. These transmissions endanger, kills, and destroys a person's life and finances. Yes, the FCC is guilty of torture and murder under the color of law, laws that the FCC will not enforce or uphold. Med radio is just one complaint. Directed energy weapons is also uses frequency. Weapons that are being used on the public by the military complex, law enforcement, the U.S. military, and others. The FCC thus has taken no precautions to safeguard the public from these attacks using directed energy weapons. Why? Why does the FCC facilitate the illegal deployment of these weapons? A directed energy weapon is of no use or value without the frequency ammo needed to fire such a weapon of mass destruction. DARPA, DOD, the military, and the military complex supplies these weapons, and the FCC supplies the ammo needed. The FCC is an arms dealer dealing in ammunition without a license. I would like to know why the people at the FCC hate Americans so much that they feel the need to torture and kill them with frequency, when it is the lawful duty and obligation of the FCC to protect the public from such crimes. This is evident in the perpetual. This is evident in the. I can't really see my screen, GoGi. I'm sorry. This is evident in the perpetual use that the FCC posts every day in the FCC Universal License System and the ULS GeoSearch. The ULS and the GeoSearch shows the malice that the FCC did not protect the public in any way, shape, form, or manner. The FCC has made themselves criminals in nature. The FCC needs to explain why these 3 licenses, and I posted the Nextel licenses, show up 5 days a week, but never on the weekend. Or maybe why the FCC is posting data 5 days a week that expired almost 20 years ago. Why is the FCC posting dead licenses? How morbid. While you are coming up with lies to cover up the crime of the FCC, you can also give us an answer to why the second entry shows up 6 days a week and shows effective 6 days a week. The easy one will be the third one that is canceled and shows up at the ULS FCC website 5 days a week. And I listed Peter Walcott. My favorite posting is the FCC, by the FCC, is posting fraudulent data in the GeoSearch sites of the ULS. Licenses that have geographic boundaries will show up in every county in the state of Texas. I was told 2 years ago that it was a computer glitch. Are the engineers at the FCC not competent enough to fix a glitch? Or is this fraudulent posting deliberate on their part of the FCC to supply ammunition to the weapons, collect data from illegal implanted medical devices, or a satellite station? Are these entities and our stated license being used for the purpose, maybe in piggybacking off of or frequency hopping to and from? Maybe the FCC can explain why some of these fraudulent entries for these FCC licenses are in the same bandwaves as Med Radio and do weapons. The FCC is an enemy of the people, using frequency as their weapon. I demand that this crime by the FCC and the crimes that the FCC facilitates stop immediately. And I attached a supporting article. It's called "The FCC is supposed to protect the environment. It doesn't." So because I'm not a very good reader, I'm going to have help. So Sir Dan will be reading the article, and then I will read the closing paragraph. Sir Dan, are you there?
I am. Thank you so much, Betty D. Okay. The FCC is supposed to protect the environment. It doesn't. The agency is mandated to safeguard the environment from damage caused by communication infrastructure. But when companies want to add new cell phone towers, build on protected land, or launch satellites, the agency typically does little or nothing. In a mountainous forest in southwest Puerto Rico, workers cleared a patch to make room for a 120-foot cell phone tower intended for use by AT&T and T-Mobile. The site, as the tower company later acknowledged, destroyed some of the nesting habitat of the Puerto Rican nightjar, a tiny endangered songbird. Fewer than 2,000 are believed to be alive today. In the northwestern New Mexico desert, a company called Sacred Wind Communications, promising to bring broadband to remote Navajo communities, planted a cell tower near the legally protected Pictured Cliffs archaeological site, which contains thousands of centuries-old tribal rock carvings. And in Silicon Valley, a space startup pursued plans to equip thousands of satellites to use mercury fuel in orbit, even as an Air Force official at one of the possible launch sites voiced extreme concern that the toxic element could rain back down to Earth. You may be surprised to learn that these potential harms fall under the jurisdiction of the Federal Communications Commission. Few people think of the FCC as an environmental cop. It's known for regulating television and radio and overseeing the deployment of communications technology. But the agency also has a broad mandate to ensure that technology doesn't damage the environment. The task includes everything from protecting wildlife and human health to preserving historic sites and even preventing aesthetic blight. This role is particularly critical now, as the FCC presides over a nationwide build-out for 5G service, which will require 800,000 new small cell transmitters, those perched on street poles and rooftops, often near schools, apartments, and homes. But even with this massive effort underway, as ProPublica previously reported, the FCC has refused to revise its radiation exposure limits, which date back to the era of flip phones. In addition, the agency has cut back on the environmental reviews that it requires, while also restricting local governments' control over wireless sites. And as the satellite fuel example reflects, the FCC's ambit extends even into space. The agency is licensing thousands of commercial satellites at a moment when the profusion of objects circling the planet is raising concerns about collisions in space, impediments to astronomy, pollution, and debris falling back to Earth. To call the FCC's environmental approach hands-off would be an understatement. The agency operates on the honor system, delegating much of its responsibility to the industries that it regulates. It allows companies to decide for themselves whether their projects require environmental study. And if the companies break the rules, they're expected to report their own transgression. Few do. In the rare instances in which the FCC investigates, even brazen illegality is often met with a minor fine, a scalding admonishment, or no action at all. The FCC declined to make officials available for interviews for this article or to respond to questions sent in writing. The FCC's inaction can have dire consequences. For years, the agency refused to take action, even as millions of birds died by flying into communication towers. Only after a federal appeals court investigated the agency for its apparent misunderstanding of its environmental obligations, did the SEC take steps that addressed some, but not all, of the problem. In most instances, the scale of damages is relatively small: a half-acre of demolished habitat, a mound of damaged Native American artifacts, an ugly tower looming over a national scenic trail. But the FCC authorizes thousands of projects each year, and the effects add up. These days, the FCC's laissez-faire approach is sparking resistance. Hundreds of conflicts have erupted across the country, triggered by citizens fearing risk to their health from wireless radiation, harm to their property values, damage to the environment, and to the destruction of treasured views. Fights are raging from rural Puerto Rico, where protesters have been arrested for blocking roads used by cell tower construction crews, to New York City, where a dozen community boards protested the appearance of visually jarring 3-story 5G poles on neighborhood sidewalks. In New York, state officials got involved, then a local congressman. Finally, in late April, the furor grew intense enough that the FCC was forced to act. It belatedly ordered a company to halt construction after more than 100 poles have been built, and begin the type of reviews that are supposed to be completed before breaking ground. Environmentalists are routinely infuriated by the FCC's stance. The telecommunications industry, which is eager to avoid the cost and delays of reviews, is considerably happier. In 2014, the FCC hired its first full-time environmental lawyer, Erica Rosenberg. Her mission was an afterthought at the agency. She told ProPublica, "Everybody was set on deployment. These environmental laws just got in the way." Rosenberg finally quit in frustration in 2021. "It was just the culture of the place," she said. "Nobody cared." The FCC's ecological role originated in the National Environmental Policy Act, passed in 1969, at a moment of fervor for protecting the earth. The law requires federal agencies to assess whether projects they've authorized will cause harm. The goal is to assure for all Americans safe, healthful, productive, and aesthetically and culturally pleasing surroundings. The law mandates an exhaustive environmental impact statement for big federal projects, such as a new dam or highway. Smaller agency actions that are judged to pose a risk of significant harm, either individually or cumulatively, require a less detailed environmental assessment. Any findings of significant impact is supposed to trigger an effort to avoid or minimize the damage. Since the anti-regulatory era under President Ronald Reagan, the FCC has largely abandoned direct environmental oversight, using a provision of the law that allows agencies to grant themselves categorical exclusions, exemptions from any review, for actions they deem risk-free. The FCC removed review requirements for the vast majority of its actions. The only FCC actions still requiring review are those that fall into one of 8 categories, including construction in protected habitat or wilderness areas, building in or near historic or Native American sites, projects that would significantly alter a site's surface features, and towers taller than 450 feet. Aesthetic harms were dropped from routine consideration, even though NEPA required federal agencies to consider them. Stricter rules were a waste of time, according to comments cited by the FCC. In the decades since, the agency has never required a single environmental impact statement. The FCC's blanket exemption for its actions went unchallenged by the White House office, called the Council on Environmental Quality, that was set up to review agency NEPA rules. Dina Baer, who joined the council under Reagan and served as general counsel there for 23 years, told ProPublica that never should have happened. It's completely abysmal. By the time Republican Michael Powell took office as a FCC chairman in 2001, the agency had yet to find a single company for violating environmental rules. At the FCC, he told ProPublica, environmental regulation is chronically unattended to. Powell vowed to get serious about enforcement, telling a congressional committee, when you cheat, I'm going to hurt you and hurt you hard. Powell took aim at a major obstacle to punishing violators, urging Congress to extend the FCC's unusually short one-year statute of limitations for prosecuting misconduct, which starts running from the date of an alleged offense, not when the violation is discovered. Congress refused. The rule remains in place today. Powell, who now heads NCTA, a Washington trade association representing the cable industry, calls the rule ridiculous. You don't have a real statute if the offense can hide in the woods, and by the time you know about it, it's too late. Under Powell, the FCC proposed its first environmental fine against the company, citing a 180-foot cell tower built without approval near 5 historic sites in North Dakota, including a cabin where Teddy Roosevelt lived while hunting bison. The agency promptly dropped that matter after the company fought back. Was you going to read the last paragraph, Betty?
No, you'll stop where it says end of article.
Okay. Of the technologies the FCC oversees, broadcast and cell towers have long generated the most environmental controversy. They're mammoth eyesores. They emit wireless radiation. Their construction requires clearing the ground of trees and vegetation, pouring concrete and building fences, access roads, and support structures.
And I finished the letter with the FCC is not just torturing humans. The FCC is torturing our wildlife and vegetation, our animals and trees. The wildlife and trees may not have a voice, but they are crying out for you to stop with the frequency crime. With every moo of a cow, the bark of a dog, with every leaf that whispers in the wind, they cry out for you, the FCC, to protect them. We all have been crying out for decades for this to stop. Our cries fall on the deaf ears and the blind eyes of the FCC. And then I included supporting FCC runs to show the fraudulent data being posted. And that was the complaint that I sent to the FCC. And I hope something good comes of it. And thank you, GoGi, again for having me on the call and letting me read my complaint letter.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you because everybody, she has taught many of us, I think you had at least 3 classes of us how to do our own runs in our areas to show what frequencies are hitting our area, our bodies coming into our homes out of those cell towers. And she continues to fight. I just love the letter. I love the article. Thank you, Sir Dan, for reading so well. And both of you together, really great job presenting this issue. And it is a real issue, not only with the frequencies from the cell towers, but that the implants. So they go back and forth, talking back and forth. The FCC provides the licenses to allow all of this to happen, for them to talk to the implants in our bodies, get data from the implants in our bodies, and to harm us with the direct energy weapons from the cell towers and so forth in our bodies. So they're a key vehicle for all of this to happen. They're very key. Their role is key. So thank you so much for that, Betty. And if anybody has any questions, I'm sure she'll be around for later. And we want to go on to our next guest. I'm going to show a quick clip to introduce her with one of her main partners that most of you know about, and that is Ryan from CIS. So we know about Ryan from CIS, private investigator, helped the TI, became targeted himself, and now he continues to do work in the field. So this isn't, he went into the FBI offices after making many complaints and calling to them, and they asked him to come in, and when he came in, he took his camera and he shared that information. So we're just going to play a 2-minute clip of that, and then we're going to introduce one of his partners, and that is Maria, and she's going to talk to us about some of the things she has going on, and hopefully we're going to join her under the J.A.M. project so we can do some things together. And then I'll tell you guys about Luana, who's not here tonight. Okay, go ahead.
Were able to do a counter intel sting on the FBI recently, which was great, not only to expose the existence of this program and give admissions on their behalf, but that video can also be used by any victims to also justify what's happening to them. Hey, yes, sir. I'll try not to complain. Sorry for being late. Oh, sorry, I had some. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, sir. All right.
Hi,
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, just want to grab your. Oh, yes. My apologies.
I mean, we have water too, but.
More polite to bring your own, right?
Well, we run out. We're gonna.
Thank you.
Over this way. Then to the left right here.
Thank you.
And we're top of the wrist right here, right here. How are you today?
Well, I apologize about this morning. Had a couple victim interviews to do. Got started late. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How was the drive?
Not bad.
Not bad. No traffic or anything?
I try not to complain too much.
No accidents? That's what I always want to do. Oh, wow.
That's not as bad as you might think.
Sometimes if you have a good, I don't know, are you like a podcast person or music? What do you listen to with car?
Country.
Country?
Yeah.
Thanks. Country, but I have a good podcast all the way to Phoenix. It's good to go.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, sir. So what can I help you folks with?
So we actually were meeting with you. We had been notified that you had made some calls into our office over the past, it looks like the past year. I have kind of a log of some of the calls you made. It looks like you, let's see, about 4 times in August and 5 times in July.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to kind of follow up with you on those calls. Generally how this works when we have an individual such as yourself kind of like making a complaint, something to file with us. Typically how it works is kind of just like this. We'll have the person come in, we'll talk to them, we'll hear about what they have to say. That way you don't have to keep calling into our office to kind of try to get your point across or checking in on stuff. At least now you will be able to talk to us. You'll know that it'll be documented, and then kind of great from there. So we kind of wanted to talk to you and hear what you had to say.
Oh, sure. I wrote you a brief. It's on our total brief. We work with a physicist, civil doctor in the environment, a scientist. So, essentially what we are is cognitive science abuse investigators. So little-known technologies that are generally sealed in these federal warrants that are sometimes abused. I mean, I know one of the biggest issues, I could show you, on the first couple pages, you're going to see a victim was there, 250 verified, I mean, you probably refer to them as TIs or gang stalking victims. We have about 1,000 in our pipeline. So they're all over the country, and they're complaining about the same thing. I mean, I throw this away. You're really garbage. Thank you. So the little-known technologies.
All right, and we'll listen to part 2 next week. I love how Ryan went in there and kind of turned it on him. So how can I help you guys? He's in the FBI office. They invited him in because he's made so many phone calls, and he's going in there representing TIs. So it's a beautiful thing. So he's talking about the gang stalking and the whole thing, knowing that, you know, some of them are the bad guys. Hopefully he has a group of the good guys, but they're calling him in to stop him from making all these phone calls and to document what he's doing. So Maria works very closely with Ryan. Perhaps you've heard about the global action, the class action lawsuit that they've been working on with Todd. Perhaps you've heard about some of the other initiatives. So I invited Maria here tonight. Maria, are you there? And can you start by just saying hello, and also what do you think about this clip here? Maria, are you here? Uh-oh. We can't hear you. Maybe, are you still muted?
Mm-hmm.
Maria? Okay. Let me see. Maria, did you call in? We're looking for...
Can you hear me now?
Do you see? Yeah, we can hear you now. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
So my name's Maria. I'm not actually a partner of Ryan's. I met Ryan a few years ago. We were actually doing a lawsuit with another group that actually broke up, and that's how I met Ryan. And then finding out that he was trying to accumulate victims for a lawsuit. So what I actually do for Ryan is help share the lawsuit, accumulating victims, and keep people updated on what's going on as I get into it. And then I help research some and help prove a lot of our claims with him. He does all the investigation part of it, and I just kind of share a lot of the research that I dig into. I'm an activist with a lot of the other TIs and trying to help on getting tactics on trying to push this along and getting awareness on this. So I've been a TI since 2016. I am implanted. I do have the Neuralink, the RFID chip, the cochlear implants, the eyes implants, and stuff like that. But I've come along with a lot of pretty good research that Ryan's been using and emphasizing on. When I first met Ryan, he wasn't going after the illegal chipping or the nanotechnology because it was hard to prove. Now he is. And then through all the activism and sharing the lawsuits and doing research and meeting other TIs, I was blessed enough to meet GoGi's and a lot of great people that were very strong activists in it. And thank God for all this. Which I'm glad she showed the FBI video, and we're kind of trying to work on the same thing of arranging, small groups to present our claims to the federal government and showing up in groups in districts to meet with the FBI and I'm sorry, they're trying to hit me. They're making my nose run and shoot me in the head. But,
I'm so sorry. I can hear you struggling a little bit. Let me just say that yes, we've been talking about. Maria's aware that we're working on the FBI Raise Awareness campaign, but we may do. What Maria's suggestion is that we do the Attorney General's office. So I'm going to have you. I already spoke to Roger, and I'm going to have trying to set up a meeting for the two of you to get together so we can decide whether we want to do FBI offices, Attorney Generals, or both. But what we really want to do is one day in November, on the same day, for everyone to be at least 20 at each location, and to raise awareness with banners and flyers and information about what's going on with us. So I'm excited to do that with you, Maria. And Maria and I have also been talking about billboards. And you want to tell a little bit about the billboard initiative, Maria?
Yes, ma'am. So it's a way to do a silent protest. A lot of us are unable to travel, and a lot of us are are afraid to still show their face or speak out about being targeted, because a lot of times our targeted will increase a little bit. So I'm reaching out to a couple of companies all over this nation and trying to get them up on boil boards, especially in the federal district, in highly populated vacation areas, and where where a lot of this targeting of the groups that are mostly targeted to raise awareness. The billboards are only going to be between $500 and $600 a month. They pay for the graphics, they do the design, the install, and working together to try to raise money to pay for these billboards.
Well, what we were thinking, and we could do that right here, is that if we could get, for example, you said $500 or $600 a month. So let's say 500. If we have 500 and we have 10 people that would pay $50 a month, or 20 people that would pay $25 a month to keep that billboard up front and center, then for a couple of months, then that would be great. Because if we're all here, gathered here, and this is all important to us, we're going through this, and as Maria mentioned, this is a way to silently protest or to raise awareness silently without putting your face and your body in front, because some people do not want to do that. And you have the means. You can put the $50 a month, and you'll know your other 10 people. The 10 people will put $50 a month to keep that billboard up front and center. May it be one that's all over New York, or we actually divided the United States into 6 groups, and that is Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, Southwest, and then Central North and Central, or I say Midwest North and Midwest South. Those 6 regions, and we're going to look for leaders in those regions. Roger will work with that project, getting everybody together so that we can stand out at the same time, and Maria's going to focus on the billboards, and together they're going to work on some things. So we need leaders, we need people that are willing to do this, and all of the emails this time will go to the J.A.M project. I hope Lynn's mic, I don't know if it's unmuted, but I think it's the J.A.M project at proton.me, the J.A.M project at proton.me, so that we can get some leaders, and especially if you're interested in the billboards. Maria, anything else? I know you were really focusing on unity. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. That the other thing is a lot of the victims are within 20 minutes to 2 hours apart, which is reasonable travel distance. Reaching out to other TIs, a few of us here in North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina, and Indiana are actually trying to get a small group together to present a city proposal of the neuro rights, the illegal implanting, the bio rights, and stuff, because once they implant you, now you become someone else's property. And the neuro rights and the bio rights, because it's one of the most invasive. I mean, this is our property, not anybody else's. So I'm going to try to put together a city proposal that everybody could share and get small groups to where you could actually hold off an hour at the city council, present the bill for your neuro and bio rights and cognitive rights, and then tell your testimony and start getting your cities to get addressed to this, or your capital, your state to get addressed to this. But, instead of showing up by yourself and presenting these claims by yourself, show up in a fairly decent-sized group, whether it's 5 to 10, and back the claims up with other victims as well, and why we need these neuro rights and the bio rights and the cognitive rights passed. We're not somebody else's property. There's no reason for all these to be violated, or the fact that you can be controlled by another human operator, like a biodrone or a Manchurian candidate. So that's another thing that we are working on, and if you guys want to get an area that is within 2, 3, 4 hour driving distance where you would meet up with other TIs and show up at each one of your cities to draw the issues to it with the organized criminal activity, the legal police surveillance, the neuro rights, the bio rights, and try to get, it's a good way to, one, get your state officials involved in it, but two, you got an audience of a large number of people that's going to hear multiple victims, and they'll start asking questions. Well, if there's this many victims in this area, when are we going to be the next victim? And that's what we're wanting to do, is get the general population to start asking questions about it, or how it's going to affect everybody else as well.
Absolutely. All right, so we hope that you'll join in that endeavor. Again, the J.A.M. project at proton.me. There's two other things I wanted you to address, Maria. You mentioned an app called AirGuard that
yes.
If you could tell. Okay.
Okay, so the guy that did my body scans, he was a private investigator that originally was going to do our whole group. After he did my body scans, because he knew I was a real TI, he stopped, plus the group was fighting amongst themselves. He told me to download AirGuard or Apple Tag Finder, and you download AirGuard, you run the scan for a while, and then go back to your Bluetooth settings if you have an Apple phone, because it's for an Android. It will show you all the devices that are connected to your phone. So you're on broadcast. Use that to your advantage to educate the population what's going on, what they're really doing, that this is a government human experimentation, you're non-consensual subjects. They're putting everybody under remote monitoring. The remotes your cell phones, and what they're hijacking is your neuro signatures. Your human terrain teams, your organized gang stalkers, your street theater, your narrative networks, they are called the biohacking human terrain teams. And if you notice, every single one of them, all they're doing is hijacking cell phones and convincing them into freely giving up their rights. So while you're on broadcast, educate them about these neuro weapons, educate them about these directed energy weapons, educate them how everybody, thanks to the stage COVID epidemic, is implanted with the same devices. The military and our federal government is not going to waste this much money on this technology just for the targeted victims. And I'm going to tell you, I'm starting to get a lot of people to say no. And that's what you want, is to have people say no, to fight for their privacy rights, fight for their bio rights. And it's just that simple. And the problem is it's the most unused word in the English language. A lot of people have a problem saying no. And with the smear campaigns, the government's not going to tell them what they're actually stealing from them, but they're getting you to consent. When those perpetrators are out there getting you to consent to give up the rights to their privacy, the government's not going to ask them again. Use that to your advantage. You're on broadcast. But it also shows the electronic harassment and the hive mind and the organized stalking as well. And I've taken videos. You'll see every cell phone. And the way you'll notice the most is when you're going into a public area, like the bank, the grocery store, the gas station, work. You'll watch every cell phone connect to your device, and you cannot disconnect them. They will automatically pair, and the AirGuard allows you to see that. And I also know that the other tracking device and the two-way communication device, AirTags and Tile, the federal government likes to use Tiles with me. and you will find a tile constantly. I have one that showed up 87 times, and I work in 4 different states. There's no reason for a tile tag to track my location 87 times in 4 different states. That's proving that somebody is stalking and tracking as well. So those are good things to keep track of that, especially for a lot of the victims that are still being tracked and stalked. I know most of these beam weapons and directed energy weapons, I know there's 6 different weapon types, but the beam weapons, the ones that are leaving the burn marks and the double dots, they have to be within 2,000 feet of you. For them to be linked up to your cell phone, they have to be within a certain amount of feet of you. They could not just hijack your cell phone. For Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, for them to access it and be linked to any of your Bluetooth devices or your Wi-Fi device, they have to be within so many feet of you. So that also proves that they're stalking you. And it is illegal police surveillance because they're using the Pegasus, the Phantom, the Stingray, and once it's hooked up to their cell phone, they don't need the Stingray no more, the apps on their cell phone. And I did actually find a lot of the patents for that, for remote monitoring and nanotechnology and tracking devices through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and being able to remotely monitor you on a Bluetooth device as far as a smartphone, a laptop, or a computer. So, I mean, we're backing our claims every which way we can. The legal issue with the lawsuit, he's going off of, he's going off of similarities, symptoms. So if you went to the hospital for any reason, for any of the similar medical concerns like your heart, your breathing, your head, the brain fog, or anything, even if it seems stupid, keep documentations of your medical documentation. If you've been denied protection for any reason, if you filed any complaints, you filed, and I'm going to go back to the FCC, so don't let me forget that. But if you filed any complaints, whether it was through the city, the state, the federal government, keep documentation of it. It's proven that we're being denied protection as well, and that's also why I want to arrange the filing complaints in a large number at a federal building with witnesses in numbers. But like if you filed complaints with the FCC or Apple or any of those, keep documentation of it. It's also proven that you went above and beyond to try to stop some of the cybersecurity and the harassment and assault. If you have devices in your body, the Havana syndrome, the other thing the investigator told me, people, places, and frequencies. So if you think you're getting stalked by a specific car, make sure you get a picture of the tag. Distinguished marks, damaged or broken lenses on the car, how frequent you see them, how often you see them, where you see them. Especially like with me, I travel a lot, so he emphasized on that as well. And then the frequencies, the FCC recommendation to not exceed over, I think it was 200 or 600. I've had readings up in the thousands, so recording your EMF readings. Remember that your general population is getting hit with the same technology as well, that they can do a whole geological area. There is no shielding next to a ferreting cage gives some, but you need wire screen mesh. Salt water gives you some shielding from it, but not a lot. Knowledge is the best thing. So letting people be awoke to it, being knowledgeable about it. Elon Musk does own the patents for Neuralink and the BrainLink. He also owns the rights to Skynet. He is contracted out by the Pentagon. I just recently found out. And, of course, I'm in Asheville, near Asheville, and we just had that natural disaster. They knocked out all the communication, even the places that did have communication and power, they knocked out due to the storm. And guess what? The only one that is working is Skynet. So being very informed and very educated on the technology, you can recognize it and you can give yourself some protection. I know a lot of times for my perpetrators, they'll have me in full-blown thoughts before I recognize the technology, before I can say I do not consent, and it keeps me from going into a lot of dark places or doing stupid things or allowing them to have full control of different things, like because a lot of it, the devices in your body's mapping out the algorithms for the AI program to monitor and control the whole population. You can read the NASA 2001 war document for the agenda for 2025, and it specifically states blankly that the target is our brain and we are at war. So being educated is probably our only shielding right now.
It is certainly one of the best. That and water. But okay, Maria, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure that people have questions, so I want to give time to the community to ask questions about anything from the news to the FCC complaint to anything that T.I. Maria activist has said. I do want to say, LaWanna was scheduled, and I'm so happy that these ladies were able to step up and come tonight, as she was unable to come until next week. Maybe on the line, if she is, when we open up, just, make sure you get in queue to say whatever you would have to say. I couldn't find you. And I also want to state that Regina, who comes on and shares apps with us all the time, lost her son. Yeah, she's grieving the loss of her son. And Michelle is going to the service on October 5th. I'm certainly going to send something. If anyone wants to send anything, you can send me an email, but her Cash App is Lead for Humanity. Lead, L-E-A-D, for the number 4, Humanity. And, of course, it's with the $. That's her Cash App. And she's going to take a card to Regina, who has been on the call at least twice and is due to come back and share with us how we can use apps to help to expose and document the criminality. So, and Maria, you certainly shared an app tonight. I thank you for that. And I'm sure we're going to download EarGuard and look at the EMF reader so that we can keep track of what's going on with our bodies and also expose and document the criminality. So thank you now.
The other thing they said that also proves the legal shipping is a metal toxicity test.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Mm-hmm. A metal toxicity test. So if you could
metal toxicity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because you shouldn't have high levels of metal inside your body, and a lot of the nanotechnology is made with different types of metals.
Right. Yeah, I did hear that we should see a toxicologist and also get a panoramic dental exam, because they want to see the jaws and so forth. So that panoramic dental exam is also good to use to document. But let's open up and hear from everyone, and we can talk in between. But thank you, everybody who participated. Thank you, Lady T. Excellent on the audio. And Sir Dan, of course, Tranquility, Betty Dew, Maria, thank you all. And, of course, you guys who are listening in. And please, with your questions, please, if you have questions, please get in queue. and we'll take them one at a time. And Maria, if there's anything else you would like to say, I'll give you an opportunity in a few minutes. All right, questions, please. Oh,
yeah, just unite. I know it's hard to trust other TIs because of the technology, but we got to put our trust somewhere, and we got to unite. We're stronger together.
And that's what we're doing here under the J.A.M. project. So please send emails. We need leaders in the 6 regions. We need to help with these bulletin boards so we can get them up. The billboards. Oh my God, that's my teacher stuff. The billboards and so forth. We have some J.A.M. homework. So please, I'm going to take the first caller though. I don't want anyone waiting too long. Go ahead. Hello.
Hi, Rita. You're up first.
Oh, thank you.
Rita?
I just wanted to.
She's there. Go ahead, Rita. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just wanted to recap the names of the apps. What I heard was AirTags, Tiles, AirGuard. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. So AirTag is another app like AirGuard. The AirGuard does something to your cell phone. So AirGuard is for like the Android, and I have an iPhone. For some reason, when you download AirGuard, it does something to it, and you could run the scan for a while and go back to your Bluetooth settings because you got to have Bluetooth on to run the AirGuard, and you will find every device known to man hooked up to your cell phone. And it would normally show iPhone, Bluetooth, other iPhones, iPads, accessories, and different things, but it also shows you any AirTag, AirPods, Tiles, Samsung tags. You know, they're also, not only are they a tracking device and what you use to locate your luggage or traveling, but it's also a two-way communication device as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rita, for your question. Next caller, please.
Hello, Lauren. You're up next. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We hear you.
Hi. Okay.
Hi.
Hey, Gaji.
Hi.
I just wanted to bring some good news to the table for a change. There is, maybe some of you all already know this, but there's a person by the name of Mikhail Wright. Have you all heard that name yet?
Yeah, I think Liliana announced it earlier. You talking about the proclamation?
The proclamation, yes, about making Gang Prevention October Awareness Month.
Well,
sorry, not gang prevention. I'm thinking about my proclamation. I'm sorry. I got a proclamation from the city from gang prevention. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about. Y'all forgive me. My brain is fried.
But that's
I meant to say making October Awareness Month for targeted individuals.
Is it
That's what I meant to say.
I think it's Havana syndrome, I heard. Is it targeted individuals? That would be awesome.
Well, either way, don't ask my brain right now, okay?
Okay.
All
right.
I'm just giving you some good news. Either way, it will be helpful, whether it's targeted individuals or Havana. Don't quote me on it. Okay.
I think it's
so.
Havana
Anyway,
syndrome.
October they have lobbied. She has lobbied for I think it's called Venture or something like that city. I think that's in New Jersey. Are you familiar? Ventura?
Oh, I didn't know it was New Jersey. Ventura County, she said.
It's in California.
Okay.
Oh, California.
It's in California.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, she lobbied and got the October month awareness, which is going to be for either Havana syndrome or targeted individual month. Okay, so that has passed, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it right?
Awesome.
You might be right. It's Havana syndrome. I think that is what exactly it is.
It Havana syndrome, and we need to push it all over the place. That let that be the first county of many would be great. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you all may have heard me talk about my attorney friend. She's a top 100 league attorney. I was telling her about Luana. Luana is a friend of mine, and I was just disappointed that she's not going to be on tonight. But hopefully, she'll be on next week. She was very happy to hear about this case, and she said that this is closer to us getting to a win than anything ever. She is really, really very happy with this. I sent it to her. She hasn't had time to look at it. She said she did look at some of it, but what she has read is very, very good for us. She has suggested that anybody that can go get concrete evidence, which means that either John Kingston or what is the woman's name, y'all? Help me out. She's an expert. She's getting ready to retire.
Are you talking about Staninger?
Yes. If Staninger we can get reports for
she's retired already. Mm-hmm.
She did already retire? Okay, because the last I heard, she was semi-retired, getting ready to retire. So, but anyway, she says that this is, there is no plausible deniability when it comes to those two parts of evidence. And she is recommending that everybody that can get evidence from a doctor, Scanager, of course, is out now, or Kingston. There's no plausible deniability with those, okay? Because first of all, we know that we didn't put these chips inside of our body ourselves. Our neighbor didn't do it. It had to be a professional. So none of us are professionals, right? So there is higher government on top of all of this. And so she is recommending, as I have always said, go out and try to get scans. I was fortunate enough to get a blessing the other day to pay and go out and see Kingston. Me and Tranquility did a call, and I think maybe half of the people that were on our conference call have been able to go out and see Kingston. So if you get that part of your evidence and you can go get some medical evidence, concrete evidence, then there's your case. And so I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to wait for Luana to come on.
Yeah, she'll be on next week. All right.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Just wanted to bring that up, okay? Y'all and go see somebody that can help you.
Yes.
And she will look at our cases as well because she's well versed. She's actually targeted herself.
Oh, good. And Lauren, let me get in touch with me. Mm-hmm.
She will actually. I will send her the cases of anybody that wants to give me their information, and I will send it to her, and she will, compound everybody's information together, or stockpile, either way you want to look at it, and she will view the cases. So, just want to let you all know that.
Thank you. All right, and somebody is texting me that the Havana Syndrome proclamation, the ribbon for the month or for Havana Syndrome is blue. The color is blue. All right, so thank you for that good news, Lauren. And anybody else? Next caller, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey there, GoGi. This is Oninye with Women Against Electronic Violence and Surveillance. And
hi.
Hey there. I have a question for Betty Dew, if she's still on the call.
Yeah.
Betty, I was just wondering when you'll have your next class. I would really love to get in contact with you just to kind of learn and then be able to share with the women who join my group how they can record these frequencies and get that documented. So when are you having another class, and or how can I quickly get in touch with you?
All information, especially on a personal level, goes through GoGi, and GoGi normally coordinates when the classes will be. But I would love to share the information. I feel like it's important for everybody to have in their arsenal. But you would really and truly need to get with GoGi to find out the answers to those questions.
Yeah, you can send me an email on Inye. We did 2 classes, and we were scheduled to do 1 more. So we'll work on pulling that together so everyone can learn how to go on the FCC and determine which frequencies are in your area.
I appreciate that. And GoGi, if you wouldn't mind, because we did try to get in contact about this, so I'm not sure if my messages aren't kind of going through, but you did help me get in contact with Betty via email. And so I've been reaching back out, but we haven't been able to kind of link up. So if you don't mind, in addition to email, maybe responding if I do send a text, if you wouldn't mind kind of like doubling up on communication just to ensure that I get into that 3rd class.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
We'll announce it on the J.A.M. as well. Awesome. I guess we need to pull it together. It's usually on a Saturday. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We didn't want to keep you too long. Again, I'm so happy that Maria and Betty Jew were able to come tonight and talk to us about the FCC and about the new things that we're doing with the billboards and around the world, around the United States campaign for awareness that we're working on, and also what Ryan is doing with that global action lawsuit. So please stay in touch. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Thank you, everyone who contributed to the J.A.M. tonight. Please do your J.A.M. homework. And, again, if you're going to donate to Regina, please do at $Lead for Humanity. And if you would like to join any of the projects, the J.A.M. project at proton.me would be where you would email for the billboards or to be a leader in your region. And also, please expect Lawana. Lawana has been blessed with having her watch list number and could not be here tonight. I was unable to send out a corrective email, but we did send one through TI Event, so I hope you did get it. Always check both, and if not, just be here on the J.A.M. and we'll take care of you. She'll be here next week. Thank you, guys, and thank you all. Thank you, guests, for being here. And let's open up so we can say goodnight. Thank you for joining the J.A.M. tonight, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. God bless you, everybody. Stay safe.
God bless you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Love you.
God bless. Thanks for here.
Love you
back. Love you back.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you all for being here.
Good night, guys. Take care.
Night. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you for choosing the J.A.M. Thank you.